Okay, I thought we need to talk about old Sleepy Joe again. Because there was a performance yesterday evening. He was rolled out, trotted out,
I think
wheeled
a lot
out.
of this is inverted commas a performance.
Puppeteered.
Yeah. So I watched the whole thing. Well, actually, I didn't actually. I watched most of it, nearly all of it.
I was
I watched like sort of 80-90% of it. I watched nearly all of it. And have been sort of dining out on the reactions from both sides. And it's interesting to see, but I suppose just the overall impressions for anyone who perhaps haven't seen it and rely on Lotus Eaters for sort of takes and things. My take was that Trump's the same old Trump. It's the same as he's always been, because he's only 3 years younger than Biden. He's 78, right? But he's just completely loose. He's still funny. He's just exactly the same old Trump. Yeah. Whereas Biden is worse than he was even a year ago, I would say.
Biden literally looks like he's been exhumed.
Yeah. It's really,
like
really bad.
Dead.
Animated by malevolent spirits, perhaps?
No, not even malevolent spirits. Like,
Mischievous spirits?
Not even, no, God, that would be more interesting. No, but Biden looks like he's been reanimated by tired spirits who just want to leave this mortal plane. And they're just sick of politics, sick of being the president. I mean, have you ever seen Tales from the Crypt? Right? He looked like the Crypt Keeper, but a boring version of the Crypt Keeper. The Crypt Keeper had way more energy than Joe Biden did. Like, Biden sounded like he'd just come off an all-night bender. Like, it's like, Biden, you had too many cigarettes last night, too much beer, you should have laid off the whiskey. He looks like he's literally dead on his feet. And it's become evident that whoever's puppeteering, like, no one thinks Biden's in charge of any of the things that are happening. And whoever is doing this to Biden looks like they're being cruel to him, and I've got no sympathy for Biden whatsoever.
It's Dr. Jill, largely. I mean,
that's what it looks like.
She's not the overall grand mind behind the Democratic Party or anything, or the global cabal or wherever it is. Obviously not her, but in the immediate, she's propping him up quite physically sometimes, right?
Some sort of small cabal around, like, the diversity hire press secretary and various other people around him, who are controlling like his social medias, his appearances, his schedules, and stuff like this, who are just using him as a puppet to push forward whatever they're trying to do. And it's become apparent to, I think, everyone after this debate, this is cruel. Yeah. This is not good.
Well, judging by some of what's been reported and what's been said, it seems that even before the debate, some on the Democrat side were aware that this was not going to go well and are sort of priming themselves for perhaps a switch. But
yeah, well, one thing I thought that was very telling, because I've said my take on him for quite a few months now has been not that he's struggling or suffering. That's been self-evident since before 2016, or before 2020 rather, but that he's actually dying. I really do think he's dying. He seems like, I've seen people come to the end of their life and die, and he shows all the symptoms of it. But I feel like it's well, one of the things that I thought was an indication was that when I was watching lots of right-leaning and left-leaning reactions to it, I watched John Stewart Leibowitz. John Stewart.
You're going to have
John Stewart.
After you again, hope not hate.
Watch. And when he was showing, he dunked on both Trump and Biden. Yeah. And when he was showing some Biden clips, his own audience were like sort of sighing. Yeah. They weren't like laughing, or it wasn't just like a carefully studied silence. They were like, people were like sighing, and like you could hear people. Yeah, it's beyond embarrassment. It's now like, yeah, it's
sad.
Yeah, properly sad.
This he came across like someone's granddad who's got dementia.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what he is.
Yeah, well, I mean, entirely. But like, he should be in a care home.
Either way, it all looks terrible for America, doesn't it? Because whether or not you want to question how much power the president really has in the executive and such, even though we know that he was always going to be some kind of figurehead trotted out for the regime, right? The fact that this is the best figurehead that you could get means you're kind of a joke nation.
Well, Stelios, very shortly before we came on, sent me a link to a tweet from Piers Morgan, who I don't follow. Piers Morgan just says Gavin Newsom's going to be the candidate for November this year.
Quite possible.
I mean,
the media reaction from the Democrats for this, like, I don't even think it's America. I think it's the Democrat Party and Democrat voters, because the Republicans, their candidate's still perfectly lucid, still fairly nimble on his feet. He still seems to know exactly what he wants, where he's going, and why he's going to start firing people, which is one of the parts of the debate I really enjoyed, actually. Trump being like, look, you've had loads of failures and you haven't fired anyone. Why not? And Trump, just a quick aside on that, actually. Trump came across as actually quite restrained. He actually came across as kind of sympathetic to Biden, like he was suffering. Like the one clip that went around, I don't know whether you've got it or not, but the one clip that went around was, of course, Biden mumbling something, and Trump just like, I don't know what he just said, and I don't think he knows what he just said. But this is what we need to do. Blah, 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 blah.
That was another one of my takes. Trump could have been way more brutal if he'd wanted to.
And normally he is.
Right, yeah.
Like, normally he's a lot more aggressive.
He could have been way more brutal and sarcastic and funny.
Yeah.
But I think now everyone really sees it. It's like...
And the things that would have come across as really horrible and inappropriate, right? So Trump came across really well by the fact that he was just like, okay.
Well, I'm recalling all the clips that came out in 2016 of the debates that he had with Hillary Clinton, which, he went for the throat there. He was actively saying, I will arrest you. Yeah. I will put you in prison when I'm in office. And you can't really do that with Biden because Hillary Clinton, evil as she may be, can at least string a sentence together.
Oh, she's perfect.
Well, she was a real opponent.
Yeah.
It's like a grown man fighting a woman or a child or something. Yeah, you don't swing for the fences, right? You just don't do it. Yeah. Anyway, one of the things, actually, talking about physicality is another thing I've said, the way his sort of baby steps. Can we actually play a link that's a bit below Samson, the one where it says Jill is helping him?
I think it's, if we go to this, go back.
Biden gets walked off stage by Jill.
Escorted off stage.
Just watch this. Sort of look how sort of delicate he is. So the technical problem there. Okay. So there's like a step. I think it's one step or maybe two. And I know it's only a thing. And I know when Trump had to very delicately walk down a wet ramp one time.
Sure, but like...
but this is not that. And it's... Like, it has to move...
But like even walking up to it, very stable.
Yeah. Well, just everything about his physicality. I think I saw Dana Carvey doing an impression where he says, you ever notice Biden will sometimes just really slowly sort of do that? That's just one of his tics. It's like, it is honestly painful to watch. So anyway, we've got some Biden lowlights. Can you play that link? Because the thing was quite long. It was over an hour, wasn't it?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half, right. Yeah. And
both sides, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with dealing with everything we have.
See Trump's face.
Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for blacks.
Finally destroyed the
impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6, and wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.
Anyway,
I tell you what. Sorry, just a quick thing here. Like it's Trump's expressions next to him that is really making this for me because like you can see Trump just like he's getting bored waiting for Biden to finish rambling.
He looks sad more than anything. To be honest,
it's the thing of repeatedly mixing up trillions, billions, millions, and thousands. At one point, he said 15,000 jobs. I think he must have meant 15 million. But yeah, because I've said it before as well. We all know, speaking for a living essentially, that you do misspeak sometimes. Yeah, I've totally said completely the wrong thing. And in my mind, I've got it right. And I sort of heard myself saying it right. But then the video footage shows I said the wrong name or something. So it totally happens. But again, this is not what's happening here exactly, is it? It's not that.
Over the course of an entire hour and a half with no change. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just a quick thing on the setup as well is interesting. CNN did a thing where they said, look, they're going to have a green light next to their microphone. They'll tell them when their microphone's actually on, so they can't interrupt each other because, of course, and they were thinking, well, look, if Trump is just given free reign, he's just going to go hell for leather, and Biden will start stumbling, and Trump will go, what? And Biden, train of thought, probably have a seizure and keel over, right? And so you can tell they were like, right, so we're going to have it so that Trump just can't really speak during Biden's bit. But I think that really actually helped Trump, because what that meant is that Biden has no distractions when he's talking, and all of these, and everyone's just quietly looking at him. It's like, oh no. And it also toned Trump down, so he's not on the attack. He's not in this sort of, very combative mode. And this just made Trump seem quite reasonable, actually, and kind of like kind towards Biden. And Biden look really, really bad. And so the time's dragging on, and Trump's waiting for him to talk, to be able to talk, and Biden's still meh, and it's like, God, this is brutal.
Yeah, never interrupt your opponent when they're making a mistake or making themselves look foolish.
Exactly, and that's
let him.
What CNN did, and it's like, okay.
Another thing John Leibowitz did, which I thought was interesting, was he talked about Joe Biden's face when Trump was talking, and that again was very, very telling. Yeah. Because he's got that the very vacant look and like the
mouth open. Like, he had his mouth open.
Yeah, and just like the vacant, truly sort of vacant look.
Yeah. He looks like he's got a very clouded mind, right?
Yeah,
that's the thing. It looks like he's very foggy.
Now, having said all that, one last thing I would say is that I've seen Biden worse, though, because he obviously has good days and bad days, like anyone that suffers from actual dementia does. Yeah. You have good days and bad days. Depends how much and what drugs they've pumped into him for this event. Yeah. So I've seen him actually a bit worse. Out of an hour and a half odd, he was only sort of incoherent, truly incoherent, a small number of times. But still, it was pretty bad. And now it's not just the right-leaning news that is noticing. Everyone is. And here's an interesting tweet where it's just sort of a collage of all sorts of news outlets saying, if anyone's only listening to the audio here, a disaster for Joe Biden from Newsweek. Well, there's just a massive long list of
calls to get Biden step down, the likely Democratic candidates.
From Politico, The Hill, Vox, all sorts of Al Jazeera, Time, all sorts of...
The Democrat media industrial complex.
Yeah. All sorts of...
All singing from the same hymn sheet.
Corporate mainstream media that should be standing for Biden, and they're not at all.
To me, it confuses me, because I do believe that there is a good chance that Biden's going to be made to step down, because clearly he is not fit to hold that office right now. My confusion comes from, why so late? Why so late in the game? Why let him get to the point where he's embarrassing himself and the Democratic Party on the national stage? 5-6 months before the actual election takes place? Why get to this point? Why not airdrop in Gavin Newsom earlier if he's who they're going to pivot to?
That's a very good question, very interesting question. I thought if you'd asked me this time last year, I would have said that they wouldn't run with him in 2024. And when they did, because he even was when he was directly asked a question, he wasn't sort of concrete, yes, I'm definitely running, I'm the incumbent president, of course I'm running in 2024. Yeah. He actually said things like, if my health holds up to it, and we'll see, and all that sort of thing. So leaving some wiggle room for the party to replace him. And then when they didn't, that was a bit surprising to me, because where we are now is obviously where it was always going to be. Maybe... There's two things, two answers to that. Maybe it's deliberate and they're playing some sort of 3D chess. I wouldn't call it 4D chess. They're playing some sort of chess game, some sort of checkers game with him.
Trust the plan.
Or they don't really care. He's a completely controllable entity. And that's all they want. That's all they need. They don't care if it's embarrassing for the United States. They don't care if it's elder abuse or anything.
I think it's more than that.
I don't know. I think
Biden, frankly, is one of the nexus points of a web of corruption that underpins
definitely
the entire Democrat Party, and lots of nodes that form out of this, like, the connections with Hunter and Burisma, Hunter and the Chinese and things like this. Like, God only knows what Hillary Clinton, Nancy Pelosi, all of these. I think Biden is basically the nexus of that web. And so if they remove him, that puts everyone slightly in danger. What if the next guy isn't on side, actually?
Yeah.
Still, but how would someone like Gavin Newsom not be entirely on side as a regime creature?
I'm not saying he's not.
The other suggestion that I've heard bandied about is that the deep state is essentially resigned to the idea that Trump might get in and is going to get in, and is essentially working to be able to control him and contain him when he does get in. So they're allowing all of this to happen just out of a sense of sort of a determinism.
That could totally be the case. Both of the things you've just said there could be totally the case. It's like the idea that someone said to Rishi Sunak, we want Starmer to be the Prime Minister, so we're telling you to throw this thing. Yeah. Throw the election.
The problem
might be with that, like, let Biden appear crazy because we've got our plans. We've got our plans within plans with the Trump
the
team. I don't know.
The problem I have with this kind of theory is who's they is always the question.
State Department.
Yeah, but who? Like, name
CIA.
the person.
Well, whoever's in charge of the State
Exactly.
Department.
But the thing
and the whole point of the blob is that you can't attribute particular names to it.
Sure,
for the most part.
But the problem is as well is it assumes a level of competence and control that I just don't think these people actually have. I think that these people are as surprised by events as anyone else, and they just do their best to manage them after they have already begun. And I think that this is just another thing. I mean, I don't think there's a plan behind the entire Democrat Party being like, yeah, we're going to stick with Biden, and then, oh, actually, this is untenable. Oh God, what are we going to do? Like, it was just on their faces that they didn't think it was going to be this bad. And Gavin Newsom actually did an interview directly after it where he was like, no, we're going to stay behind Joe Biden. One bad debate doesn't make anything.
That is what you say, though, right?
Sure, but it's not, though. That's the thing. They're all like,
well, so it's an interesting point.
If Gavin Newsom was like, I want to be in charge of the Democrat Party, now's the time. Like, he should be like, I think we need to take care of Joe Biden, but I'll step into that role of leadership. Whatever.
When you say who's they, a couple of things. One, it's sort of the permanent civil servant types at the State Department or at the Pentagon or at the White House or whatever, but also someone like Obama or the Clinton family. Like Obama visited Rishi. That was so suspicious to me when he visited Rishi off the cuff. I feel like, the Obamas and the Clintons, Biden is their plaything.
100%.
He's their front man.
But it's all a bit too
the Podestas. Okay, yeah. But then, look, they're all singing from exactly the same...
Yeah, but they all saw what we saw.
Wasn't there also...
I suppose,
Didn't Connor say something about that one of the publications had already prepared a headline like this on the 25th? I mean, that could just be basically hedging your bets.
I think it was.
Yeah,
but it could suggest something more.
Yeah,
I think that what they did is prepared two articles. Biden smashed it. Biden ruined it.
Probably, depending on how well his medication took that day.
Because this is the sort of thing they've done in the past.
And of course, this isn't new. I remember when I was young, I don't know, pretty damn young, like 13 years old, maybe 14, 15 years old, and going into a newsagent's one day and noticing that all the newspapers ran the exact same picture. It might have been something about Diana or something. It was the 90s. I can't remember what it was. But all the newspapers were running with the exact same image and more or less the same headline. And I remember thinking, oh, so they must be communicating. That's not coincidence. It's not by luck. And again, of course, they either there's some sort of copying off each other thing, or in fact, their editors literally just call each other. Or text each other in some sort of group or something or other.
Can I just draw to something else, one of the other links that you've got here, which was this that happened as well, just in the past week, that's been updated, where Snopes, seemingly out of nowhere, decided that they were going to fact-check all of the old news reports that came out back in 2017 following Charlottesville and saying, actually, no, we were fibbing a bit here.
Yeah.
Not even just a
Well,
we know
but
it was a total lie. We knew it.
They've always got to try and hedge it, though, don't they?
again, for anyone only listening to the audio, it's the old story that Trump said there were very fine people on both sides of the Charlottesville thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was spun into that he was calling neo-Nazis very fine people, which if anyone watches the clip, you merely need to watch the clip. That's not what he was saying.
I mean, he literally
And
says,
Snopes-
I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
There are very fine people on both sides. And so he explicitly carves them out of what he's saying. And of course, they've lied about it for the last, 8 years?
And Snopes, the fact checkers, now
Finally.
for some reason.
Yeah.
It's like when I said the Scots were like a turd that can't flush.
Yeah.
I said explicitly before that, what I am about to say is with my tongue firmly stuck in my cheek. And then said it. They just quote the incendiary bit and say it's a classic thing. Yeah, classic thing. But so we know also that the corporate mainstream media, they're so cynical. They will sit on a story for months or years.
Epstein.
Say they've got something in their
example.
pocket about
Jimmy Savile.
I don't know, something like Russell Brand. There's something about
There's loads.
and they'll just sit on it until it's their moment, the moment that they pick to do this stuff, because they consider themselves sort of masters of the universe or whatever, or that they control the news cycle absolutely, and the message and all that sort of thing. So
it is
it's what they do.
politically timed.
It's what they do.
They
Of
are
course it is.
aware.
Of course it
They
is.
are political agents that have significant effect on the political discourse. And so you're exactly right. They sit on these stories in order to steer things in a certain way.
A great example. Do you remember last time in 2016 when the audio of Trump saying you grab women by the crutch?
Yeah.
And they released that at sort of, what was it, a few days before the actual vote?
Right.
Or 1 week
Yeah.
before the vote. And they've been sitting on it for months or years or something, or at least months they've been sitting on that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's absolutely what they do. So, I mean, I've used up pretty much all my time here, but just to say, Trump has still got it, obviously. There was no doubt about that. He's the same old Trump. And Biden, it's looking bad, isn't it? It's looking bad.
really-
I still probably wouldn't put any money, unless I've got very good odds, on him being removed. And let's say it's Gavin Newsom is
Or
the
Big
heir
Mike.
apparent. I would suspect, unless he actually dies, it will be him. But maybe.
I'd like to see how that turns out. If they do let Biden take it all the way to November, I don't think it's going to end well.
I mean, just a quick thing to finish on. Like, if you'd asked me 5 years ago, is Biden going to get this kind of coverage from the mainstream left-wing press? I'd be like, no, obviously not. They're totally on message, 100% message discipline. And now it's just every single one of them is like, okay, look, this is over, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I would say that,
And it is interesting to see that Gavin Newsom himself will say, no, we've got to stand behind the party, we've got to stand behind our president. One of two things is happening there. One, what his words were genuine, and that's what he means, and therefore there's a breakdown in message or strategy between the Democratic Party and the corporate mainstream media, or he's just saying, that's what you say.
Yeah.
That's what you say, because it's almost a cliche or a truism that anyone wants to be a leader. When asked, you say no. Because, well, hubris and arrogance and all sorts of things. So it's definitely one of those two things. But it does, if I had to sort of guess, I would imagine Newsom seemed genuine to me in that response.
Yeah, he did to me.
So maybe, I don't think necessarily.
He's American Psycho, isn't he?
Yeah. So and also, I wouldn't be surprised though if there is some sort of breakdown in communication, or they're not all exactly on the same page. Whatever cabals run the corporate mainstream media and the cabal that runs the Democratic Party, they're not the same thing. They're not the same people. They will have slightly different goals and ideas and tactics and all sorts of things.
Also,
so maybe they are sort of locking horns a bit right now.
I mean, this is all to
who knows?
not consider any reinforcement that could go on.
Well, I mean, one thing that I think it's important to remember is they've got to maintain a level of sort of plausible deniability about anything they do, right? So if Joe Biden literally comes up and dies on stage, they can't just print Joe Biden wins election, right? Or wins debate, right? And
I'd love to see the spin there.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's the point. And I think we've reached that kind of
Hunter
event
and
horizon.
Jill on either arm, full on weekend at Bernie's.
Well, it practically was. It was literally,
Yeah, almost.
I know, but now
was.
we just go all the way, jump that
But the
shark.
point is, we've realized where the event horizon is here. It's Biden literally being left alone to talk quietly for 5 minutes on his own that has got them like, okay, look, we can't be the Pravda for Biden anymore.
Yeah.
It makes us look not credible. That level of plausible deniability would be completely destroyed, and we can't step over that boundary. And I think that's what we're seeing here.
Well, one last thing before I sort of bring this segment to an end. Can you play that very last link? I've just called it Jill Cringe. Just to leave you all on a touch of cringe. Watch this.
Joe, you did such a great job. You answered every question. You knew all the facts. And let me ask the crowd, what did Trump do? Why?
Biden looks like he's away with the fairy.
Yeah, he's no idea what's going on there, is he?
And she is out of her mind.
Yeah.
She's out of her
Trump wasn't like
tiny
that.
mind.
Maybe it's
Yeah, right.
maybe it's the quality of the picture as well, but it looks like Biden's face has been photoshopped just a few inches off of his skull.
Just looks like
It looks really strange.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Hi, folks. Thanks for watching. You can watch the entire podcast, The Lotus Eaters, live at 1 p.m. only on lotuseats.com. And while you're there, you could sign up for £5 a month if you want to support us, help us keep the lights on, 'cause of course we're demonetized on YouTube. And you can watch Dan Tubbs' amazing Brokenomics series, where he breaks down everything economic and various other things beside. It's excellent stuff, and we appreciate all the support. Thanks very much.